In this video, I'd like to talk about the math question of the day for Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023. And with this problem, we have a right triangle where we need to figure out this missing side length, AB, the hypotenuse of the triangle. And questions like these are typically seen either in a geometry class or maybe a trigonometry class. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video, see if you can work through this on your own. And when you're ready, unpause the video and we can go through this together. Now, assuming that you've attempted the problem, let's start working through this. And since this is a right triangle, and we know one side and we know an angle, we can use our right triangle trigonometry. And to remember those definitions, you can remember the saying, so katoa, where the s, c, and t, those are the different trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent. And in terms of this angle, the O would be the side opposite the angle. The A would be the side next to the angle, the adjacent side. And H would be the hypotenuse. So looking at what we actually know in this triangle, we know the side that's adjacent to the angle. And we're trying to find the hypotenuse, which we can denote with maybe the letter X. We need to figure out which trig function to use. Which of these functions uses the adjacent side and the hypotenuse? And that would be the cosine function. So we can say that the cosine of some angle, theta, is equal to the ratio of the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. And with this definition, we can plug in the values that we know. We have the cosine of 50 degrees is equal to the adjacent side, which is 2, divided by the hypotenuse, which we called x. And we just need to solve this equation for x. This is a rational equation since x is in our denominator. And to get x out of the denominator, remember we are dividing by x, so we can use multiplication. We can multiply by x on each side, so that on the right-hand side it cancels out. And we get x multiplied by the cosine of 50 degrees is equal to 2. And from here, to get x by itself, we need to cancel out this multiplication by the cosine of 50. And keep in mind that the cosine of 50 degrees, this is just a number. If you plug this into the calculator, you will get some irrational number. It will be less than 1, but it will have an infinitely long decimal, which you can round using the calculator. And since this is just a number, we can just divide each side of the equation by that number, by the cosine of 50 degrees. And if you want, you could plug it into the calculator now and round it, though I do recommend getting into the habit of rounding everything at the end so that you don't lose any information along the way. The more you round in the middle of a problem, the less accurate your final result will be. And in this case, you're only going to round once, but it's still a good habit to be into to round everything at the end. So on the left-hand side, the cosine of 50 in the numerator and denominator will cancel out. And we get that x is 2 divided by the cosine of 50 degrees. And at this point, we can use our calculator. Just make sure your calculator is in degree mode and not radians. And what you'll see is that this is approximately 3.11. And again, this is an irrational number, so the decimal actually just goes on forever without a pattern. However, we can round this to the hundredth place as this 3.11, and that number does make sense because we know it has to be bigger than 2, since the hypotenuse is always greater than the legs. So in terms of that, it at least makes a little bit of sense.